Welcome back. I'm Mark Maya, and this is the story of my journey to become a comic book writer. All right, in today's episode, we're going to cut right to the chase. How to find an artist. Because I'm assuming at this point, you've seen my introduction video, so this is really the first video where I'm actually going to give you advice, and there'll be links and stories, etc. Because here's what's probably happening. You've got yourself a script, but you don't know how to get your comic book off the ground. And one of the first questions you're going to ask is, where the hell do I find an artist? And not just any artist. Where do I find a great artist? Well, I'm going to tell you. Now remember, as we're going through these videos, I am not a professional comic book writer, artist. I'm not in the only thing I have to do with comic books is I go every Wednesday to the comic book store to pick up a stack about that big. That's it. I'm big into the Fall of X right now. So, the Hellfire Gala, that's pretty good stuff. But we're not here to talk about other comic books. We're here to talk about our comic books. So here we go. All right, let's start with my story. Well, not my comic book story, like the story of how I got to my artist, the journey. All right, now here it is. When I touched a bit on this in the intro video, but when I first started the comic book, I wrote a script and I thought, I'm going to find a buddy, a pal, another like-minded individual who wants to just create a comic for the love of creating a comic, or to get into the comic book industry. Basically breaks down to somebody you don't have to pay, because I'm not getting paid, they're not getting paid. It seems like a fair thing. And then if the book makes any money, we split the profits, right? Now, that was the idea. And I mentioned also in the intro video that my deal up front was nobody gets paid up front. We make the comic book. Then any money the comic book makes would first go to pay me back for any printing costs that I incurred, just to bring us to zero. And then once we actually start making profit, that the first X amount of dollars would go to the artist. And then we wouldn't start splitting any profits, if there were any, until that number was reached. So let's say you get the first $5,000, artist, and then after $5,000, then we start splitting the profits 50-50. So that was the deal I was proposing. And it enticed some people to come on board, but it wasn't enough to keep them on board, because the amount of work required to do this was a lot for the promise of money and not the guarantee of money, if that makes sense. And it's just a lot of work. I'm not just saying that artists are greedy. That's not what I'm trying to say at all, because I'm an artist myself, so I get it. It's just that it's hard to have a full-time job as an artist and then expect that artist to go home, ignore their families, and create art for your book, because it's a lot of work. So anyways, that went on off and on for a few years. Then I stopped and came back, and I decided, now when I brought the comic book back, I decided, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to Bon Jovi this. Now, and I say that because if I'm remembering this correctly, Bon Jovi is just the one guy. It's just John Bon Jovi, and then he just pays his band like employees. It's not a group thing. It's not like the Beatles. So it's just one guy, and he just pays his bandmates, as far as I understand. Regardless, that's the system I'm going with. So I'm taking this from a high-end approach where I am a writer who will just outright pay an artist to create content for the comic book I am creating. Looking very much at it as an employee-employer relationship, but obviously open to collaboration if that's something they want to do. Because I'm going to be honest, some of the artists that I have talked to, some have been, they have ideas that they want to interject. Others just tell me what to do and I will draw it for you, and then you pay me and then we're done, right? I've met both artists, and the situation I'm in now resembles the latter. I'm working with Marco Leone, who is a great artist, and how it works is Marco gets paid, he does the art for the comic book, but then that's where it ends. If the comic book makes any more money, Marco doesn't get anything extra. We don't split profits. Now the profits come to me. I've paid him. He's guaranteed his payment for his work, and then I will benefit or suffer based on the profits. If there's no profits, Marco still gets paid. If there is profits, then he doesn't get any benefits, but then I start getting paid. He's always guaranteed his paycheck. So I think that was a pretty good deal. So that's the situation I'm in now. And on top of that, I went, I'll tell you how to get there, but on top of that, there's also a contract that says any characters created by Marco are owned by me. I'll say this is exactly how I want the characters created, and he creates them and they're mine, and he has no right to those. Just legal paperwork to just get out of the way. It's nothing personal, but I can tell you from experience, if you don't get it written down on paper, you can definitely get screwed out of something or into something. Just get it written down. Just do it in the beginning. It's just paperwork, and if everybody's good, then there shouldn't be any problems anyways. So let's get to how I got to Marco. Once I made the decision I'm going to find an artist to pay, and like pay outright, pay up front, and then there's no partnership deal. The comic book is all mine. Once I made that decision, I decided, well, I got to find an artist. So, but where to look, right? I reached out to social media, right? I hit Facebook and I was like looking for artists to draw my book. Does anybody out there, any artist I know, willing to work with me on this book, or know anybody? I'll pay. It's a paid gig. It's not a partnership. And I didn't get back any responses. Well, that's a lie. I think I got back, hey, you're doing a comic book? Good for you. I was like, are you interested? They're like, no, but good for you. But I did get one response from a board game designer, Sen. He's local in London, Ontario, where I'm living now, and he said, go to Twitter. There's lots of artists there. So I was like, all right, I'll go to Twitter. So head out to Twitter. And I don't have a very huge Twitter following, but I put it out there, looking for a comic book artist, do. Now, the amount of responses I got for somebody that doesn't have much of a following on Twitter, and I'm like a Twitter idiot. I'm not much. Someone called me a twat. No, that's terrible. No, anyways, let's get back to it. So, got a lot of responses back from Twitter. And, but to be honest, none of them suited the style that I wanted. Because another thing you need to understand is when I wrote So-Called Living, I had a certain style. Well, first, there was a level of quality. It had to be above a certain level of quality. I just didn't want any artist. I didn't just want the book to happen. I want it to happen right. So first, there's the baseline level of quality, or quality level. And then there's the other line, which is, or other grouping of lines, whatever, stick with me, of what style art did I want. So something like, for me, a Roberto Ramos type of art style would suit So-Called Living very well. Now, I actually did write a message to Roberto. He did not respond. He's probably busy. But anyways, that's what I had in my head. But I didn't put that out there right away. At first I was like, let's see what's out there. Somebody might have a different take, a different art style that I was like, oh, I didn't even consider. That would be great. So, got a lot of responses from Twitter. All of them were all of them, I'm pretty sure, if not all of them, 99% of them, were all like an anime pointy chin style artwork. And that's very popular, especially in indie comics. There's so much of it. But that's not a style that fits my story. And you have to know that the style of art is just as important as the tone of your writing. It has to match, right? And and they'll strengthen each other. So it's important that don't, if you have an idea in your head of like the type of artwork you want, the type of artwork that best conveys your story, don't settle for anything you don't think is a good fit. That's my first fit. And I didn't, because I was like, I've waited this long. I had this script collecting dust for like 15 years, and I've waited this long, so I was like, I'm not going to rush it now. So I just stopped because the Twitter things were coming in faster than I could respond. The Twitter responses were coming in faster than I could respond back. So I just pulled the chute. I was out. I was out of Twitter. So then I was like, well, let's go back to Facebook. But this time I'm not going to tweet on my personal. I'm going to go to Facebook indie comics group. Now, to be fair, I don't remember which group that I got this. I don't know if it was like indie comics on Facebook or which group it was that I got this from, but it doesn't matter because I do have the final information, which we're getting to right now. On this page, I saw a story, and the story was of somebody who paid their artist ahead of time, and the artist did half the book and then just took off. Just didn't finish, wouldn't respond. They're fully paid and just decided they're not doing the rest of the book. Now, the art, from what I remember, was pretty good. But this guy came in, wrote on the group, and he was like, I need an artist. He told a story, and he was like, I need an artist that can continue on with this style, because he likes the style, obviously, and it's crappy because he's got to pay again. That's an unfortunate situation, because he paid everything up front. So that was sad. But the good news about that is a man by the name of David Campetti, I think it's Italian, I believe that's how it's pronounced, David Campetti. David Campetti, I think he's been working in the comic books industry for like over 40 years. He's worked with Stan Lee on some things. Anyways, he's got comic book experience. And he piped in, or chirped in, whatever. He commented on the thread saying like, hey, I've got this company called Glass House Studios. I'm sure we can find an artist that'll match your style. So I was like, well, interesting. What's Glass House Studios? Now, I'm going to put the link for Glass House Studios down below, because following that advice is what led me to Marco. And this was great. This was a good day. This was a good day for Mark. Artist name's Marco. Writer's name's Mark. Technically, my name's Marco too, but I don't go by that. Let's keep it easy. Marco's the artist. So I go to Glass House Studios. And don't just Google it, because if you Google Glass House Studios, I found, like, I think window companies, a lot of things other than the website I wanted. So follow the link below. I'll give you the right link to the right place. And Glass House Studios is just a collection of super talented artists, and they have portfolios broken up into, like, here's my inking, here's my line work, here's my color work, and you can just go through and then contact David. I thought I was contacting the artist directly, but apparently what I was doing when you email through Glass House Studios is you're actually, at least when I did it, my messages went straight to David. All of them went to David. So I found like, I don't know, 10, 20 artists, and I sent 10, 20 different messages, and they all went to David. He responded to one of them being like, I see you've sent me a few messages. I was like, my bad, I didn't know it was all going to one person. But David Campetti, he was like, you should tell me what kind of artwork you're looking for. So first of all, I filtered through his all the artists that they had. There's tons of artist portfolios on there. I just filtered through them, and I was like, I like this guy, this guy, this guy, this girl, this person. I like, here's all the portfolios. I like my top picks. And he was like, "What's your budget?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know what my budget is." So here's the thing. So you figure out your budget, and I was like, okay, this is my budget. Now, the reason I'm not telling you my budget is because my plan was to start this video and be fully out and tell you what my budget was, but I don't know how comfortable Marco would be with me sharing, or the company I'm working with, or Glass House Studios, or David feel comfortable with, like, because it's a contract you make between two people. So I don't know how comfortable they feel with that. So I don't want to step on anybody's toes there, because it's information that's not just mine. It also affects them. So I'm going to leave it at that. As in, I'm not going to tell you what my budget was, but I can tell you it's decent, but it's not crazy high. So it was went through, and basically all the artists there, I got some quotes, and I was like, you know what? Did some math after I got some numbers back, and then after I got the numbers back, I was like, okay, that's a little much. So what I'd suggest is figure out what your budget is per page, and figure out what is it that like that budget's got to cover like the line work, the coloring, and lettering. So what is that? Figure out what your budget is for all that, and then that way you'll be ready for when David asks you, "Hey, what's your budget?" You're like, "I got it." So come up with your budget. Go to Glasshouse Studios. I'll send you the link below. Just go through their artists. Contact David to find anybody. See if there's anybody there you like. Now here's what happened. I went through and I actually couldn't afford anybody that was available because either certain people weren't available and the ones who were out of my tax bracket because really they were really good. I couldn't afford them, and it's a difference between hiring people that work in the States versus hiring people that work in other countries. Because I'm Canadian, first of all, so American dollars do not work well for me. But we deal in American dollars. So the American dollar in other countries, there's talented artists there too, and it goes a lot further. So you can get more for your money by looking outside the country. Now, when I contacted David and I told him, I don't know if I can afford any of these. I don't know if I'm ready to do this. He was reassured me. He's like, don't worry about it. I'm going to put you in contact. I'll find you an artist. Give me a budget. So I was like, bah, I spit out a number. That's my budget. I think I feel comfortable with that. I'm a little nervous, but I think I feel comfortable with it. And so he had my budget, he had my style, and he was like, all right, here's a portfolio I think you'll like. Perfect. Marco's was a perfect fit. And so Marco is in Italy, and he works with Salvatore DeMarco at, I'm looking at my notes over here on the side of the screen, at a company called, I wrote it here. It was, for some reason, I always forget. It's Graphimated Animation, I believe is what it was called. I didn't put it in my notes. Well, Graphimated Animation. So I met Salvatore DeMarco first, and then I met Marco Leone. Now, Salvatore DeMarco runs a studio and they do the same thing David does with Glasshouse. But they're partnered in some endeavors. There's some cross pollination. So David put me in contact with Salvatore, and Salvatore kind of works as the in between guy between me and Marco, because Salvatore runs the studio, so he's responsible for everything. So I tell Salvatore, this is what I need, and then Marco produces the artwork, and if I have any comments on it, which I always do, I write them back. Salvatore translates that to Marco because there's a bit of a language barrier, being that everybody's in Italy. So that's the dollar going further. So Glasshouse Studios led me to Graphimated Animation. But check out Glasshouse. I'll put the link to at least Glasshouse. I don't actually know if I have a link for Graphimated House or Graphimated Animation, but I'll put the link to both downstairs in the description if I can find them. Now, so Marco, great artist. So he did all the line work. There was a lot of back and forth. Now, this video is focusing on how to find an artist and my story of how I found an artist. I'm going to put another video together that's going to describe how I communicate with the artists, as in how I write my scripts. So for the artist I'm working with, because I found there's also different styles of artists that work differently. So different artists like to work in different ways. So I'll break down how I communicated with Marco to get across my vision to him so he could put it on paper with his magic fingers and send it back to me. So Marco did the line work. After that was done, I went to go find a colorist. Now, the Marco's coloring style just wasn't the style I was looking for. So he does do colors, and there's a lot of artists that there'll do it as well, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. But I found another artist and a colorist specifically, who actually, I think he does inks for DC. Anyways, I contacted one colorist who led me to another colorist and they led me to Juan Castro from what was the name of his studio? Oh, Casbury Studios. So Juan Castro is the art director of Casbury Studios. Now they do a bunch of stuff too. So I think Juan himself, he's inked for DC. At least that's what I found in his bio. But they did all the colors for So-Called Living, which is my story, my book. So Marco did the line work. Casbury Studios, headed up by the art director Juan Castro. They did the colors. Sorry, I blanked out there for a second. And then for lettering, it was, I got the name here, Simone Di Napoli. Simone Di Napoli. Now, if you look at, if any of you have read So-Called Living, because the digital version is available for free now. I'm giving it away free to promote the Kickstarter, which is coming up in November. So you can see the final work there. Now, the credit for lettering did not go to Simone. It went to Sin M, which, because I didn't get Simone's name until after I put it together the PDF. So Sin M stands for Someone I Never Met. Anyways, that'll be changed in the final. So Simone will get her name in there. So Simone did the lettering. Now, keep in mind, Simone did the lettering. I asked, and here's some requests I made. I requested that the line work be kept as separate as they could, because I want to be able to cut it up for marketing purposes. I also asked for the lettering to be kept separate and in editable format, so I could just go into Photoshop, click the bubble, retype anything, because either I might want to change a line, or maybe I just, I don't like the way this one bubble reads, or for whatever reason, there was a typo that I just caught. So, and I can just change it myself instead of going back and forth and being like, can you put a the there, a comma here? I'll just do it myself. So that worked out well. Also, when I worked with Juan, when I worked with Juan on colors, I also asked him to keep it separate, same reasons, so I could have separate elements that I could use in marketing, which you'll see on the Kickstarter page, which we'll do another video how I put together the Kickstarter page. But having those elements separate really, really helps. Now, after I came up with the budget for the book and what I could spend, I never really took into account the cover art. So that wasn't one of the pages I calculated into my calculations. But, so here's how I'm doing. The cover art is, I have actually 4 artists doing cover art. And what it is every issue of So-Called Living is going to have a standard common cover. And that's going to be drawn by Marco, same artist who draws the inside pages. Then I'm going to have other issues drawn by guest artists, Derek Luffman, who's got, he's a lot of successful Kickstarter. He's got a great Instagram channel. He's got tons of great work out there. Just look up Derek Luffman. I'll put his link in the description below as well. I've got Ashno. I combined his thing. It's Ashton Techno Prasad. It's the Ashton Techno I was having a hard time with. But he's a photographer, actually, and he focuses on city photography, but he's actually going to do a cover for me as well. So it's going to be a photographic cover. And Jamie Reel, who's an artist I mentioned in my first video, who hasn't done any comic book art professionally that I know of other than Toronto Comics. That one short story we did together. But he's worked in the video game industry for a long time. He's a super talented artist. He'll also be doing cover work. So that's Derek, Jamie, and Ashton are all providing variant covers to Marco's work. So I'm very excited to be offering those. Now, if you are looking for an artist to do a variant cover, a way to do it, because it's easy to get a commission, it's easier to find an artist who will do a one-off commission piece for a cover. But make sure you let them know that you're going to do it, the commission, what you're getting them, let me try that again. Make sure it's clear that what you're asking them for is a commission that's going to be used for your comic book cover. All right. Now, the people I contacted, Derek, Jamie, and Ashton, are all people I know from my circles. But if you want to find artists to do variant covers, a great place to do this is if you go to Comic Cons. So you go to any book, like I went to Fan Expo, I was talking to people there. There's Toronto Comic Con, there's San Diego Comic Con. Depending on where your city is, there is a comic conference somewhere around your city for sure. And there's artists there in Artist Alley, and a lot of them are willing to do commissions. Find an artist that suits what you're looking for, and just straight up and ask them, do you do commissions? How much do you charge? This is what I'm looking for. And now a little tip, if they tell you, it's $1,000 to do a cover. I'm just throwing a number out there, some simple math. And you're like, oh, I can't afford $1,000, but I can afford $500. Just throw it out there. The worst they're going to say is no, because you're going to say, sorry, I can't afford $1,000. But just throw another number out there. They're like, you know what? Yeah, sure, I can do it. I can do it for $500. Because don't be afraid to just, you don't want to lowball them. You want to pay them fairly for their work. But don't be afraid to just be honest with people, being like, I cannot afford this. This is what I can afford. Can you do it? If not, that's fine. Don't give them a sob story, because they've got lives too. Just be straightforward with people, and it'll be good. And now that's it. I'm not actually sure how long this video has been running so far, but I hope this helps you in your search to finding an artist. I will put all the information down below of Glasshouse Studios, Graphimated Animation, and you can go there to start looking for artists. Now, if you don't want to pay an artist, if you're looking for the friendly approach, you can try what I did in the beginning. And when I say, hold on, just to be clear, when I say don't pay an artist, I don't mean never pay an artist. I mean, in the beginning, you work as a partnership and you split, you split profits or something. You work out some sort of deal. So in the end, somebody's gonna have to get paid. You're not just looking for free work. And don't try the exposure angle. That's literally just a bullshit angle. But there's other people, there's artists out there that want to get into comic books, just like you're a writer that wants to get into comic books, and you're willing to do it for free. There are artists that are willing to do it for free, as long as there's some sort of agreement between you two. So go reach out to Twitter, go to social thing. And, if you see a guy on Instagram and he's got like 500, 800,000 followers, and you're like, wow, his artwork's amazing, I'm gonna ask him if he wants to do a project with me. I'm gonna give you a tip, probably not. You're gonna have to, if you're looking for somebody to partner up for something that's free in the beginning and you pay them later with promises later, you're gonna have to aim lower. Don't go sending Jim Lee any emails. Just aim lower. Ask on Twitter. Ask for people who are trying to get exposure. Again, we're not doing it for exposure, but they're looking to get out. People are looking to get into comic books. So look for them. They're out there if you don't want to do the paid route. But personally, I prefer the paid route because, and here's another thing you need to know before I go, is So-Called Living, after all the contracts are done, So-Called Living is mine and mine alone. If for some reason the grace of God, it blows up into something amazing, I will absolutely give Marco a bonus for his work. Absolutely. But if it just makes just a moderate amount of money, if any, then no, because that was the deal. No risk. If you're not willing to put in any skin in the game in the beginning, and I was clear with you, I've been very clear from the beginning with everybody I've talked to. If you're not putting any skin in the game in the beginning, then you're not gonna benefit from any extras that happen later. If you want to play it safe is totally cool. But then safe is what you get paid. That's the conversation you got to have with your artists. And don't be a dick about it. The way I said it might be dickish, but that's not how I talked about it to Marco. I'm just trying to get straight to the point so you guys understand me. I actually didn't talk to Marco at all. I just talked to Salvatore, who then, he takes care of Marco. But I'm rambling a bit. So that is it for this video. Again, if you guys have any questions at all about my process, put the questions down in the or in the comments below, or just DM me, and maybe I'll make a video about it. Or if it's a short enough question, I'll just answer you directly in the comments or the DM. But if you guys are looking for any other videos about the process, let me know. The goal of these videos is to hopefully help you so you can learn from my successes and my mistakes and succeed in writing for comics, because you want to do it, I want to do it, that's what we want to do. And by all means, if you have any advice for me, we should help each other. I'll take it. If you got an in at all, anywhere, let me know. because I want to just work with you so we can help each other. Help me help you. So that's a Jerry Maguire quote for you. Okay, I think that's it for this video. I don't know what the next video will be. Something else extremely helpful, I'm sure. And that is all. Have yourself a great day.